Hey everybody. It's been a while. But
Yeah.
let's just jump right in because we were talking about something that was important. So Dublin, massage therapist,
Dublin,
chisels
massage
you
therapist
with his thumbs.
right? And he works with a lot of like high level athletes. He works with a lot of MMA people, a lot of pro weightlifter kind of people, right? Like he's working with people that need their bodies. But he says about massage therapy, like it could totally solve problems, but if you have gone to 3 sessions and your problem isn't resolved, you need to stop seeing that therapist or stop assuming massage is going to fix it. Right? Either one or the other is the answer, but otherwise you're just burning money and there's no fucking point to be going.
Yeah. So this is actually really interesting for a few reasons, but this is sort of what I was hoping to get into today. Vis-a-vis our discussion on fencing and just practices and developing ourselves in our practice. But so we're talking about like massage can be a cure. So I don't know if I mentioned this before on the show, but I had a condition, a muscular condition, that after visits to 3 different separate distinct physical therapists and also talking with an orthopedic surgeon, I had been misdiagnosed across the board. And one of the physical therapists, when they were assessing me, just like casually made a throwaway comment about like pain I was feeling in a muscle when they were like feeling around, and I was like, ow. And they were like, oh, that's actually a good thing because it could just be that this is tight and you have like a tendonitis in your elbow. Or shoulder. I thought my bones were like crunching each other because the pain was so bad and so distinct. Like I could feel in a particular range of motion, I felt like 2 bones were like smashing into each other. I was like, oh my God. So bottom line is, I went to the treatment. I did the rehab exercises. None of it worked. And then I remembered that little pithy tendonitis comment, and I looked it up on YouTube, and a bunch of people said the same thing. Find the trigger point and massage the crap out of it. So I had Karen massage the crap out of it for 5 minutes. I just said, because that's what the YouTube video said. Like it said, they recommend 30 seconds. We recommend 5 minutes. I was like, okay, that like I'm always over the top. That's like been my MO. It's been my MO ever since ever. And so like, everything I do has to be extra. And so I was like, 5 minutes, I could do 5 minutes. Right. And so I asked my wife, who happens to be a massage therapist, but like, hey, massage this for 5 minutes. She was like, yeah, sure.
Right.
So she did. I woke up the next morning. The pain was gone. No pain, 0 pain. Like I woke up 4 months, 4 different like consultations from medical professionals, 0 results. Physical therapy, shoulder strengthening exercises, back strengthening exercises, none of it worked. 5 minutes massage, cured. And so therefore, ergo, thus, massage will cure you of your illness. Fucking, excuse me, cure.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was possible to cure your physiological condition with massage. And like I knew that massage is good for you because it relaxes you and it releases chemicals in your body and human touch, and we're humans and we're social and we need blah blah blah. But I didn't know that it will cure your physiological muscular conditions. Right.
Yeah.
And then so then you were saying, yeah, and that's totally true. And also, no one really knows how to do it, right? Or at least, like that's a big, right? Trained professional massage.
Yeah. Many trained professional massage therapists are trained in a style where their emphasis is upon
the other things that I was talking
release, about. Right? Yeah. You want to make them feel nice, and you do little touches like this, and that ain't gonna fix any muscle anything ever, right? Listen.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking snob about my massages. right? If I'm going to pay you like 4 times the amount of money per hour that I make, I'm willing to do it. But like, if I walk in and shake your hand and you give me one of these handshakes, like, I just need to leave because you're not gonna be here to. So for what I have learned is, if it's going to cure a muscle, tendon, blood flow, adhesion issue, it's going to be very uncomfortable.
Yes, that's a fact. That is a fact. And that's sort of, so it's funny because I think back, I may have mentioned before, like I get massages everywhere I go. Yeah. I've literally gotten, like, I've gotten massages in dozens of countries, right? Like I used to get a massage when I lived down in Honduras. I used to get a massage from a guy down there, and he was like this jacked, like pure, like lean muscle, like football player type dude. And
that's what I want.
That's what I wanted too, except that I didn't need that kind of pain, and he gave it to me everywhere, right? And so, like, that's the other side of it. It's like you don't just beat the crap out of someone. Like, there are places where your body needs it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's part of the training, is that you have to know, like, okay, this is tight, it's super tender, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
And so we're going to work,
Yeah. I mean, I have a new medical human in my life he has a variety of non-standard training. Like, he's a chiropractor, but he's never popped a thing on me. I think he has some neurokinetic stuff. He has some massage therapy stuff, right? And at this point, he's just kind of conglomerated into, this is how I deal with people, and it's not under any specific modality, right? And so I went to him, I had my shoulder stem celled. Yep. And it's like,
oh man, that's something that we need to talk about for sure. Okay. Like, I think it's been long enough where, like, we would, like, endorse it, right?
Yeah. I had a couple tendons that were torn in my shoulder along the grain of the tendon, not across, like not cut, like split apart. Shredded. Yeah, shredded. And so it was actually a candidate for stem cell treatment, which not every tendon tear would be. But anyways, and so they pulled fat out of my butt and they spun my stem cells out of it, and then they mixed it with my plasma, and then they injected that sludge into the holes in my tendon, and it is now whole. Right. So it's healed, but it's been 2 years. It's completely healed. There is no problem, but I still felt hesitant, nervous, unsure, unstable, like kind of all those words. In certain bind, like a Zorn bind against somebody who's fucking taller and stronger than me, which is like 90% of my fencing, right? Felt unstable to hold still. So I find this other doctor, blah, blah, blah. I go to him. And he, like, within, I don't know, I had a half-hour session with him. Within 5 minutes, he's like, what the fuck is going on with your pec minor here? And I was like, oh yeah, it's totally fucked. Like, it's always crazy tight. And I tore, like, my pec major wrestling, as you do. And so my pec minor, like, took up the slack, and, like, it's not supposed to, but it does.
Right.
And he was like,
which means it's constantly pulling. So it's tightening itself all the time. And so it never.
It's like, light isn't good. Well, I mean, yeah, you can see. Look at that. Look at that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Anyways. So he was like, yeah. And then spent 10, 15 minutes putting me in excruciating pain along that muscle. And that sensation is gone now. Like what
Right.
that sensation of my shoulder is completely healed, but will never be the same.
Right.
15
Right.
minutes under that guy's thumbs.
Right.
Done.
And so just to be clear, and we're talking about like what our insights have been, because like as we were saying, there's not a lot of, the art is not the highest level of the art, or at least the level that we're interested in here in this conversation, is
Yeah.
not developed enough yet, or not sort of permeated throughout the practice of massage, right? Like
Sure.
most massage therapists just don't think about what they're doing like that, or at a minimum, that's not the experience that we've encountered in our encounters with the people in this practice. So we have some insights. Like, number one, if it's gonna heal, or if it's gonna fix something, some kind of thing that's wrong with us, then it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck, and it's gonna last for a while, and it's gonna suck the entire time, right? Like that's what, like we both believe that, right? So I think, right?
Keep going.
So, well, I think one other thing that is worth thinking about is an idea that, like, it's probably it'll heal it. It'll solve the tension and the symptoms of the tension. So the symptoms for me of the tension was particularly my infraspinatus was so super tight that it was yanking on the tendon. So I thought it was bones crunching against each other. My infraspinatus was yanking on the tendon so hard that the tendon was getting inflamed, and it was so swollen. So it was so swollen that my humeral head was actually like pinching it, right? And that's what I was experiencing the whole time. I didn't know what it was. That's what I was experiencing. They said labral tear. They said blah blah blah. No, that's what it was, right? So, but here's the deal: just because I fixed the tension and I healed the swollen tendon, or basically I didn't even heal it. I just allowed it to allowed the inflammation to go down by not constantly pulling on it, right? But that didn't solve my problem, because my problem was the reason that the infraspinatus gets so tight, right? And so that's the thing that I need to figure out how to really address in my life, right? How to solve my own muscular imbalances. It's not just a matter of the tension. It's a matter of the lifestyle that creates the tension, right?
Yep.
And so like I only bring that up because you're saying like that problem is totally solved, and I hope that it's solved, and I hope what that means is that you've solved all of the imbalances that you had that led to that tension. But it's possible that you still haven't fully addressed. We say like you haven't fully addressed the causes of that tension, and so you might experience it later, right? And that's fine, because now you have a sense of what the hell's going on, right? Like now you know how to deal with it, and it's like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to sit under the thumbs of this guy again. He's gonna pulverize this into nothing, and then I'm gonna feel better.
Then I'll feel better. And like I was like, because this is the podcast we do, like it just struck me as you were speaking, why I kept saying keep going, was that like this comes back to like the insight about the human experience, which is so much suffering is created by the attempt to avoid pain, right? And by avoiding 5, 10, 15 minutes under that guy's thumbs, I create years of suffering.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And let's talk about this for a second. So that paradigm, right? That paradigm leads to the overemphasis on allopathic medicine and curing the symptoms, not the causes. Right. And
well, listen, I can take ibuprofen every single day. I can, have a glass of wine to go to bed because my shoulder's hurting. I can,
right.
Yeah, sure enough.
And so I think that is really valuable. Like we need to, we don't, embrace the pain. Maybe that's taking it a little too far, but like, we have to have a realistic sense of what the hell's going on. Part of that is
Yeah.
learning. Part of that is allowing for the possibility, right? Because, and also, well, so let's talk about this, right? Sometimes muscular pain. We were talking about massage therapists. All right, so we started the conversation off with your friend, not actual friend, but the guy on YouTube who's in Dublin massaging people.
I mean, maybe he'll be my friend someday.
Right, hopefully, right? So he says what? What does he say?
That if your massage therapist doesn't fix it in 3 sessions, you're wasting your money.
Right. So what's going on there, right? Like, what, why? Why is that true? Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I mean, there could be a lot of proximate reasons, but I think, I mean, if we're circling it around, if it's going where I think you're taking it, it would seem to me that a massage therapist that doesn't fix it in 3 sessions is just my glass of wine to go to bed, right?
Well,
Makes me feel better right now in this moment, but doesn't address the root cause in any meaningful way.
Right. Yeah. And part of that's because they may not know, right? Part of that is, because their focus is on something else.
They're focused on something else. Listen, if I'm going to a massage therapist because I am feeling a little down and need human touch, then somebody who gives me a loving, gentle massage is like the right choice. I don't need somebody to break up adhesions. Right? But like if I'm going to somebody to break up adhesions, I'm going to say, listen, I mean, I am the kind of person that will absolutely pay for an hour and a half and say, you are going to work on my right shoulder.
Yeah. Right.
There is no time for anything else in this session. And I want 90 minutes on everything that has to do with that shoulder. You can come up into my neck. You can go down into my lats. You're the expert. But like my right shoulder is all we're talking about today.
And part of that for them is like the knowledge of the anatomy. Like I believe that, because I think that in most, certainly in the US, you have to be licensed as a massage therapist, and you have to demonstrate lots of basic competency in terms of anatomy and physiology, right? You have to
for sure
you have to know where muscles are, and you have to know which muscles. I mean, do you actually have to know which muscles do what to the body? Like, I'm not sure that that's true.
I do think they are supposed to know. Now, whether or not that information stays in their head past the test is,
Well, that's another thing, right? It's like, when, so, to know, like, okay, this is tender. For instance, that physical therapist who was competent enough, right? They didn't diagnose me correctly, but they were competent enough to say, oh, this is super tender and tight, and it's like a trigger point / knot / thing. You might have tendonitis, and that might need to be released so that the muscle can relax, so that the tendon can relax, and so that the inflammation can go down. Was essentially what they said, even if they didn't even understand it that deeply. I didn't, I just learned it because it was my particular condition, right? So I don't begrudge anyone for not knowing these things. But like, to have that experience, right? To be able to say, like, this is how this works.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would never have learned that. 30 years of going to get massages from all over the world. And I would have never have learned that, like, muscles can become so tight that they pull things the wrong way and create inflammation, which causes pain. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so to know what muscles should be tight and what shouldn't, or, not, hopefully no muscles are tight, but like what kind of pain that you're experiencing, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right? Because one thing with my shoulder is the reason this came up is because several days ago, the pain got so bad that I had to revisit it the same way that I did the first time. This is several years ago. And I had my wife, who happens to be a massage therapist. I had her work on my shoulder, and she worked on it, and it was so excruciating, right, that I could not, like, I had to take deep breaths. I had to ask her to stop. I had to, like, make audible vocalizations.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was 3 days ago, and she's worked on it every day subsequently since. And then yesterday, I commented. I just made the exclamation, like, it's crazy how 3 days ago you couldn't even touch this.
Yeah.
Right. And now she just takes, and we have a massage gun that I bought soon after, and she just jams the massage gun. And I'm like, this is great. Like, do this again do it for another 15 minutes. Right. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Do it, right.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and that's it. And the thing is like, again, to make it all about like the broader human condition, right? But like, we develop this fear about that thing being touched because we know it's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. And the fear about that builds the pain of it being touched, right? Mm-hmm. It hurts worse because you're scared of it hurting. Mm-hmm. Like that's a real demonstrable fact.
Oh yeah, right. That's the way that we experience pain, for sure. Like, yes. We focus on it, and we intensify our experience or our relationship with it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And so like, man, like if we're talking about like, I don't know, grief is always not the easy, but the one that's the most obvious to me. Like, I have this grief about
low hanging fruit, right?
Yeah, right. I have this grief about my MS diagnosis, right? And what that means, and I'm scared of it, and there's a lot of pain around it, and so I don't want to touch it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to, and so it just gets bigger and harder and more dysfunctional, and it connects to more and more things and starts pulling them out of position, and eventually, right?
Everything gets inflamed.
Eventually.
Right.
Everything gets inflamed. Right. And now suddenly, I'm yelling at my kids because they're being normal humans playing. And I'm like, you're playing too loud, and I have to yell at you.
Right.
About my emotional inflammation.
Yeah.
Because I haven't dealt with my shit because I'm scared of it. Right. Yeah. But if you can get over the fear, and you can touch it, and you can break down and cry about it and do whatever, make vocalizations.
Yeah.
About that pain.
Pulverize the adhesions, right? And the buildup of the scar tissue.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can just be functional again.
Scary. Yeah.
And it becomes less scary. Okay. So this is what on the docket today. We're going to.
Are we going to talk about fencing?
We are. Well, we're going to talk about. I'm going to probably yell at my dog for eating his foot at some point, but I might try and get the ball to you first, and then I can mute it while I yell at him.
Okay.
So talking about the difference between a noob and a scrub.
Yeah.
Well, so
you said that to me in the show notes, and
you were like, where are we going? Where are we going? What are we doing? No, but this is important. This is important. This is a real thing. All right. So there is a phenomenon. We'll look specifically at fencing. We'll highlight the phenomenon in fencing, and then we'll look at other aspects of our lives and our practices to see if there's something more fundamental going on. Right. So a noob is easy. Right. So a noob is easy. What's a noob?
I presume somebody that just rolled up.
Yeah. And so what does that mean about their practice? Right.
Well, they probably don't know shit.
Yeah. Right. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how any way that they're going to behave is going to interact with the phenomena that they're putting themselves in a place to encounter. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, practices are basically defined by the set of phenomena within the practice, right? Like that
Yeah.
that people are going to experience. You could say, right? It's a perspective, okay?
Right.
Right. Like if we're talking about like the practice of going to and from places, then it would be hard to be a noob because like you have to do that just to be a human, right?
Yeah.
But in the practice of fencing, there are a lot of things that are specific to fencing that you're going to experience and that you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that a noob is not going to have any realistic sense, right? Like, or at least their intuition is not sufficient to guide them towards successfully achieving whatever the goals of the practice are or whatever.
Sure.
Right. And that's great because everyone has to start somewhere. And
I love being a noob, man. That's
yeah,
the best feeling.
right. For sure. It's totally, and it's such a relief when you've been at the top of the practice for a long time to find
Yeah.
something new, to different, to be and experience that so that you can rely on someone else to guide you.
Tell me what to
Right?
do. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know what to do. Please help me. And they're like, yes, of course. I'm so glad to do that. Right. And all right, so that's what a noob is. But then we talk about what a scrub is. Now, so these two words are very common in video game parlance. But I feel like there's something real there with both of them. The noob again is easy, but a scrub. So have you ever heard the term scrub or used the term scrub?
I mean,
It's a pejorative and it's demeaning. So it's
exactly. And so I don't use it.
right.
I don't like it because I don't really like pejoratives.
Mhm.
Not a fan. I try to avoid them unless I really dislike you, and you'll know if I use one. But yeah, I think of like what was it, that TLC song? Yeah, I have like '90s associations with Scrub. That's what I have.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, I posted on my social media like, "Hey, define scrub for me," and I had a few of my like dear like friends from my from my '90s um, who like we had a reminisce about the '90s and about TLC and whatever. But anyway, so listen.
Don't do drugs, kids.
So I actually, yeah. So I think that there's actually, I think TLC was getting to the same phenomenon,
Okay.
probably.
So tell me what a
All
scrub
right.
is.
Well, so okay, so let me share with you what it seems. So here, listen, the video game fighting game community or whatever, they're not the most sophisticated in terms of their sort of traditional doctrine, right? Like,
No.
so they have concepts that they don't really understand, and the people who operate at the highest level, who are the biggest authorities on the kind of thing, are not necessarily like the most trained in terms of
Thoughtful.
philosophy. Well, I mean, they are thoughtful for sure. Like Mike Tyson is thoughtful, but they're not trained philosophers.
Okay. All right.
Right. Okay. So it seems to me that a scrub, this is what a scrub does.
Okay.
A scrub makes excuses for why they don't perform well. All right. That's the
All right.
first. So a scrub makes excuses for why they don't perform well.
Mm-hmm.
A scrub is the kind of person who rage quits.
Yes.
So in a video game, you're playing a video game, you find out that there's no way to win,
Right.
and you don't just quit. You disconnect your Ethernet cable so that the platform doesn't even recognize that you
Right.
quit. Right.
Right.
It's just like, oh, your connection was lost. Right.
Right.
So a scrub does things. Here's where we start to get into the meat and potatoes. A scrub does things that are random.
Okay.
Right? So a scrub behaves randomly.
Uh-huh.
right?
In fencing, would a suicidal doubler be a scrub?
Well, I mean, yeah. So a suicidal doubler could be a noob,
Oh, for sure.
right? Well,
But
and that's why,
we
yeah,
know the difference. We know the
exactly.
difference,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
there's a so it's so if we start, yeah, now we start. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the distinction is starting to become a little bit more clear, right?
Right.
So a scrub is someone that should know better but doesn't,
Yeah.
right?
And the pejorative comes in not in their ignorance,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
in their attitude.
And their unwillingness, right? And
Yeah.
their and so often what it is there's an unwillingness, because particularly a scrub is manifest in the competition, right? So like,
Say more.
well, so you can't have a scrub
Hmm.
until there is an actual um until there's an actual competitive match,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So it's defined by a scrub is defined by their attitude or their behavior in this
Right.
particular environment of competition,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
so, go ahead.
keep going. Keep going.
So when you start looking for like people, like kind of the people that want to be more precise and more nuanced in their discussion in this community, like what how they would define a scrub. Often you get it's about attitude, it's about mentality, it's about a desire to win above all else,
Yeah.
and it's about a desire to win at the expense of doing things that you understand. Okay,
Yes.
so we when you get into a new practice, someone puts a sword in your hand. They say, "Listen, this
Hmm.
is what I want you to do." Right? You experience this particular stimulus. You respond with this particular behavior.
Yeah.
Right? A noob experiences that. Right? Um, it might be a challenge, but
Yeah.
hopefully, as a coach, you're only giving them mostly that stimulus. We'll say, right? Like
Right.
mostly that stimulus. Maybe occasionally you throw something else at them that's different, just so that they can observe it, just so that when they do see the stimulus, they have it contextualized, right?
Right.
Um, but you put them in a competitive bout, right? They're looking for that stimulus. What if it never comes?
Right. Which
Or
happens all the
then,
time.
how do they
Sucks.
behave? Right? It sucks. It's terrible, right? And so it's possible that you experience that and you say, well, I fucking have to do something, right? I mean, what I've been given is not preparing me for this environment. And so I
Yes.
have to behave some way given these other stimulus that I'm unfamiliar with,
Right.
right? Um, and that's okay. I don't think either of us would say like, you're wrong for doing that, right? We would never say to a fencer like, um, hey, you tried, we'd be like, you tried something, right?
Right. Yeah. You tried some weird things. How'd that work out? It really didn't, did it? Yeah.
Right, right. But it's a refusal to abandon that randomness,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
At the expense of, or rather, like we, uh, they behave randomly
Yeah.
when
I mean,
they could perform more poorly, right? They could
hmm.
perform worse,
Hmm.
but they could limit themselves to developing their execution in a limited area.
Yeah. Can I tie this into climbing?
I was dying for you to do that because
To
like
tie.
to tie it into climbing. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Di-
when I sent you that this morning, I was like, I want to hear
okay.
her
because
talk
that's my new
about.
practice, right? I mean, that's where I am a noob.
Yeah.
Okay, so because I've talked about this a lot. To sum up, for anybody that this is their first episode, I had early great success by being light, strong, and stubborn and hauling myself up walls, whatever fucking way I could haul up, so that I could hit the top thing and be like, did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Could not progress beyond a certain grade because that's just the grade that combination of like attributes could get me through, right?
Mm.
And like I could get stronger or more stubborn and maybe get a couple more grades, but realistically, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I now have recognized this is not going to get me any further. So I would climb a 10A and climb it and be fucking exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I get my gold star, tired, right? So I was like, I need to learn how to do this properly.
Right. The point of the practice had to become less getting to the top, achieving the end goal, and more doing things well.
Correct. Because I know from fencing and basically everything else in life at this point, but fencing taught it to me the most. Doing it well should not be particularly effortful. It will be some effort for sure, but I shouldn't be effort. Like, you know.
It'd be an elegant effort, right? Correct. Enough effort to, just enough. Literally that line of just enough to achieve the thing.
Yes, right. So, because I've coached other people in fencing and coached myself in fencing, I knew how to address this, which is I only climbed shit that was easily achievable, right? So, if I was having trouble at 10As, I went down to 5/7 and 5/8, like, which is, a huge difference if you're not a climber, huge difference. So I go down to these 5/7 and 5/8, and every single move, I made myself do it properly where I didn't have to. And so the reason I did that is because I wanted to lower the risk for myself. Right? There's no risk in me taking my time, doing it properly. I'm not clutching on for dear life at a move that is at the top of my capability. I'm on easy moves, aka I'm going and doing fundamentals work, right? Yeah. How do I lunge properly with my knee there? Okay, I'm going to have to slow it down. I'm going to have to break it up. I'm going to have to do a lunge that's not as far as my normal lunge. I'm going to have to, right? And I'm going to do it not under pressure until I get it and understand it. And I'm not going to break my knee tendon. And now I can start building and pushing into how far can I lunge? How explosively can I lunge? How quickly can I recover? How much can I do it under pressure of a stimulus, etc.? So yeah, doing that with my climbing. So I've done that for like 2-3 months, say 3 months. As you know, I've been sick. That's why we haven't been recording, like super sick for a long time. I still would go and do some climbing, and it was like I was barely doing these 5/7s, which are well below my grade because I was sick, and whatever. And I was just going and trying to do something. So this week I went and I was like, okay, I've been trying all this stuff. Let me just try a 10A and see where it's at. And friend, I literally climbed the 10A, came down and said to my climbing partner, I think this is misgraded. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, that was so fucking easy. And he was like, yeah, because you climbed looking good.
Yeah. Right.
It wasn't misgraded.
Because you're not a scrub. Really. So like, I mean, listen, so scrub is a pejorative and we use it to make fun of people, right? Whether for better or for worse, but we need a name for the attitude of I am going to, so like whatever the opposite of a scrub is. So like I'm going to allow myself to not conceive of success or failure in these terms. I'm going to allow myself to conceive of success as the improved performance. Right. at the expense of winning, right?
Yeah.
I am interested in improved performance. One of the in video games, if you're having trouble breaking through this boundary, right, this plateau, one of the pieces of advice that people give you early on is I want you to play matches, ranked matches, right? Not matches that you can consider throwaway matches, right? No. Ranked matches, right? Matches that you actually, your status is affected, right? Your nominal status is affected, right? And I want you to survive until the timer reaches 0. So your goal is to not win the match.
Yeah.
It's to have life in the health bar when the timer reaches 0. And if you have more life than they do, then you get to win that round or whatever. And if you don't, then you still call it a win because it's a win. Because a win condition for you is that timer reaches 0, right? And what that does is it forces you to learn to block and learn to dodge and learn to not get hit and otherwise, right? And to not behave irrationally or irresponsibly, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means don't button mash. Don't press random buttons that's going to cause things to don't
Out
do
of
things that
control.
are punishable.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it also helps you change the win condition. It helps put people in a mindset of like, okay, I can't do this random unsafe stuff because it's going to put me in danger of failing, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're able to start conceiving of your losses in that domain, right? Your failures, for instance, your failure in, your climbing grades, right?
Yeah.
Not failure,
Right.
right? I achieved the thing. And guess what? To bring it back to what we started with, right? The pain that you were experiencing, right? That you were scared of, and you were a bad example of this because you didn't come in with this attitude. But had you come in with the attitude of me not being able to achieve this grade is a failure on my part, it's poor performance, and I have to be scared of that, right? Because of the pain that I'm going to suffer of not being able to do the thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. If I cared about the other people in the gym or even just my climbing partner seeing me not hit a certain grade that day,
right,
it would have been extremely painful for me to be able to do this. To do this practice of redefining what success is. If I attach myself and my ego and my identity to this one definition of success, then there's no room to grow.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this too. So somebody recently was talking about their performance in a bout, or their performance at a tournament. And they asked like, hey, did you see, like I had mentioned that I thought their fencing had improved. Right. And they asked if I had seen which bouts I had seen.
Yeah.
Right. And they were like, or I was like, I saw these bouts. These are the bouts that I saw. I didn't see the other ones. And he's like, oh, I had better performance in these other bouts. And I'm like, and I wanted to say, and I think I may have hinted at it, but like I didn't break it down. I saved it for this discussion. I saw everything I need to see.
Yeah.
I don't need to see you win.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like I don't need to see you win. I look at someone, I can see within 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Where they are, where they stack up, how their fencing is. Right? Like I don't need them to win or to win an exchange or anything to know when someone's behaving safely and responsibly and their body mechanics are more efficient and their tactics are more coherent. Like, I don't need to watch the outcome of an exchange. I can see that with your in the first 3 seconds of the bout. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
so people have this sense of, you know, and I'm like, it didn't matter what I saw. I'm going to see your strength. I'm going to see the level. Like, maybe there are grades and maybe there's a level of precision that I'm not, you know, that I'm not seeing immediately. But like, I don't need to see your win-loss record to get a sense of your performance.
How well you're doing. Yeah.
Right. And it's just like your training partner on the wall. Right.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, he saw what you were doing.
Yeah.
The moment you got on the wall, he saw, oh, Jesse's going to make this climb. Right. Like there was they didn't need to like guess or like see how, you know, they just knew, because it's like, because I watch that person and they obviously know what they're doing. Right. Like, so I know, or maybe they have these sets of deficiencies. And so maybe this particular climb with these particular skills might be a challenge for them, but this one won't. Like, it's just like, once you know what the practice is and you actually know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Then you don't have to guess anymore.
Yeah. And let me tell you, for anybody out there doubting this, if you identify as a scrub right now, you heard that definition, you're like, that's me. It's totally cool. We can all get sucked into that mentality. But I will tell you, the dopamine rush of coming off that 10 a.m. being like, that's fucking misgraded.
Right.
That was too easy. I feel like I'm ready to go fucking kill. I can't wait till the next climbing day. That was my last climb of the day.
Right.
I can't wait till Saturday because I'm ready to fucking kill it now. Right? I feel so much more confidence than I did the last time I climbed a similar route. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to share this with you, a similar experience in fighting games, right? So so I got last year, basically, I just was like, I'm going to do this deep dive in fighting games because I don't know, it's something to pass the time and it's pretty cool. And I actually learned a lot about martial arts and about my practice in fencing and grappling and stuff, and just skill development, etc. So it was the same thing. I had ranked up in a particular fighting game. Now, when I was a scrub, because I was a scrub, really, like, even though I was smart enough to know better, I still kind of struggled with that mentality. If I had ranked up past where I belonged, right, I knew it, and I wanted to protect the score, right? Like, I wanted to protect, like, my status as this level in the game, right? Because I wanted, it's like a weird thing where you like want to believe this lie about yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, technically, go ahead.
Do you remember my pink nemesis, that wall that that route I just randomly, arbitrarily decided I was going to get?
I love it.
I did.
I love it. It makes me so happy. Go ahead.
I did get that pink route one time. I could never recreate it because it was a random fucking fluke, right? It had nothing to do with me.
Exactly. It wasn't. Go ahead.
And the thing is I had to look back up in your and I's conversation because I had said something to my climbing partner about like, oh, I've never climbed anything over a 10B. And he was like, bullshit, that pink wall. And I was like, what? And he was like, no, it was way higher. So I looked up in your and I conversation, James. That was 11B.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Huge.
Right.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking grades higher than what I climbed this week and I'm proud of.
Right.
Me getting that once was like literally you roll a die enough times and you'll get a 6.
Right. No, and that's it. But the thing is, you want to protect your ego and you want to say like, yeah, I made it to the top of that.
Right? I did it. I did 11B. I can do 11B. No, can't.
But no, you can't. But that's the thing is that like, and here's the deal is like, if you can actually do, and this gets me back to my fight. So about 4 or 5 months ago, I had consistently put in the effort to raise my strength like my real strength, right? Not my, I achieved this through like a series of lucky encounters with people who were ranked lower than me or shouldn't have been ranked higher than me, but they were anyway. And I got up to like some score, right? That I put myself there, and then I didn't want to I didn't want to play ranked anymore because this is, you know what I mean? And so, but I got over that. I got my scrubbiness out of my system, and I went back to having my actual score be a true reflection of my strength.
Yeah.
Right. And I went through the process, and I gradually raised my strength, and I ended up at a level way higher than I had achieved through randomness before. Right. And I maintained it consistently.
Yeah.
And then I went and I was like, this is interesting. I want to go back, and I created a new profile. Right? I created a new profile to see, you know what I mean? Just to see, can I do it again? Yeah. And I did it again. And it took me an hour on a Sunday.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And then I did it a third time. I did it a third time just because I felt so good about, like, motherfucker, this is an actually true reflection of where I'm at.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can just do this now. I can just wake up and start brand new and just do this.
Yeah.
You know? And like,
that's what I mean. It's such a better dopamine rush than the win on accident, right? And the win on random.
And be like, I can achieve this. This is something within my, well, yes, but like you say, you roll a die enough times, it's going to come up 6, right? That's right. It's not actually saying anything. And when you can get into a place where you can get out of that mentality of, I'm not going now, but it goes back to what a scrub is, right? So what it requires is, it is, in a general sense, it requires a shift in your mentality from, I'm not going to, from this thing that we've been talking about for the last 10, 15 minutes, right?
Right.
But in a practical sense, what it requires is experiencing failure at a lower level, right? So that you can work on execution and develop skills, right?
Yeah.
And so that your behavior actually, like, whatever the status is that's associated with it, is a reflection of your true strength.
Yeah.
Right. You can climb 5 7As or whatever. I don't know what the grades are. 5 7s. Is that right? Whatever. You can climb those.
Doesn't matter. Yes.
Right. You can climb those. And you did it over and over and over again. And no one was impressed because it was a chump wall or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're climbing 5 10s and it's like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And so
not only, well, hold on. So not only is the number higher, than it was ever going to be, but also it's real.
It's real because it was easy.
Yeah.
Like, it just was. Oh, my feet go here. I turn my knee like this. I put my hand like that. I didn't overgrip. I didn't fear for my life. I just climbed the wall, know? Right. And so I would almost suggest, for the use case that we are discussing right now, that scrub is the logical green belt to the white belt of noob. That you will experience some success through randomness and become briefly attached to it. And try in vain to recreate it in these spastic, weird ways. And that it would only be a pejorative if you can't let it go and be like, all right, I'm going to do the brown belt work of going back and relearning all of those forms I already knew.
Right.
And doing them good.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people quit at brown belt because that is it's kind of boring in some ways to go back and redo all the things you already knew.
Right.
And just get good.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And like,
So
and yeah, it becomes a pejorative when there's a sort of a steadfast. So there's a so what where this term is used the most is in this sort of mode of social interaction in the video game world.
sure.
People call them scrub quotes, right?
Scrub quotes.
Yeah,
Oh,
scrub
like
quotes.
shit people say, basically.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
and
it.
shit who says, right? Specifically,
Oh, okay.
shit scrubs say,
I love it. I love
right?
it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, and you know, and the game is like, is that a scrub quote or is that like a legit? You know what I'm saying? Is that like a
I
legit
love
quote?
it.
You know, right?
I
Is that
love
like,
it.
is that you refusing to grow up and actually acknowledge where you're at, or are you you know, airing some kind of actual like legitimate thing that you're working on? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
difference. There really is a difference. And we, you know,
You know, I when you started talking about this, I mean, we're getting close to time, but I thought of the, we aren't going to name names, but there is a famous fencer who, for a while, was having a lot of success winning a lot of tournaments around the world by doing a drop knee sphere,
mhm.
right? And at one point, the question came up to this fencer, like, "Hey, like, is that even in any manuscripts? Like, why are you doing that?"
Mhm.
And I mean, in a way, good on him, but he sheepishly said, no, but sometimes that's the only way I can get the point.
Yeah. Right.
Is that a scrub quote?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's well, so that gets to a bigger question in our community, which is what
Right,
is HEMA, right?
right,
You know, if HEMA is winning the tournament, then no, he's just a successful player in the game.
right,
Um, but you know, but we don't like to acknowledge that HEMA is winning the tournament. Like, nobody likes to acknowledge that HEMA is winning the tournament. Even
right,
people who conceive of HEMA that way.
right,
Like, they never
right.
openly conceive of it that way to themselves. They say, no, I'm
Yeah.
doing HEMA, which is this manuscript thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, and so that, yeah, that's a really interesting question. But it is, yeah, I love, yeah, it's funny.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting thought. And I thought about that a lot. I thought about the fact that that fencer had a little bit of like his heart kind of turned when he had to say, actually,
Right.
no, I'm just trying to get the fucking point anyway. I can get the point because I want to win.
Yeah. Well, and actually, and I think that right there is enough to say, like, it's not a scrub quote, because at least they have, right. A scrub quote is like, it's denial, right?
Right. Right. If he was like, oh yeah, man, I saw it once.
Right.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Or like
Yeah.
justifying it some bullshit way or whatever. Right.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well, I mean,
so I want to finish, or at least I want to add one final thought. So I was chatting with my assistant instructor at Goliath about this on
yeah.
Saturday, and we were talking about how real this phenomenon is. Like, it's like, full stop. This is a real fucking thing, right? Like, this is a
Right.
real thing that
The
people.
scrub phase is real.
It is a real, right? And like, what is it? And what it is, what it seems to me, like the most precise way I've, you know, like we've approached this ontologically, like
Yeah.
what have we seen, right? What are expressions of this thing? So definitionally, the way that I think about it is, a scrub is someone who regresses. So a noob doesn't regress, right? A noob just doesn't
They
know,
just are.
right?
Mhm.
They just are. But a scrub regresses to a mean of randomness,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because they're more concerned with potentially winning in a way that they don't understand,
Yeah.
right? With the more likely potential of failing, but failing the sort of the competitive game failing to win the competitive game in order to focus on developing skills that they do understand.
Right.
That's sort of my like best attempt to encapsulate this in a single definition.
I love it.
And it's okay, none of this is like, it's the recognition.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you transcend this.
Yeah.
You allow yourself to lose, and you allow those losses to be a reflection of your true self in terms of the way that you identify.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot there, friend, but we are at time, so we can't.
We are, in fact.
We can't go deeper on that. But I don't know. We might pick up here next week. It could be
did
cohesive.
You think, here's a question.
For 2023.
Did you think because you I love the physical reaction that you had when I said like, we're going to talk about scrubs. And so like, did you think it was going to go here? Did you think that this is even a potential?
No, I wasn't really quite sure where you were going to go. I mean, you're a thoughtful guy, so I'm sure it could go somewhere. But like, again, I really dislike pejoratives. My kids play a lot of fighting games and a lot of online community games, and I have always had the rule. Like somebody talks mean and you have to turn it off.
Right. I think that's, I mean, using a word to like describe a particular thing that exists, that's real, that's one thing, but like using it to beat up on people is something different.
Right. Exactly. And I was sure you probably weren't going there, but like, that was my gut reaction to the word.
Right. Well, but so I want to hear more from you. Maybe you can bring this up to your kids and see.
I know. I'm going to ask them
how they experience the term. Like, what does it mean to be a scrub? Do you have scrubs in your life? Who are they? What do they do? Like, what makes them scrub?
Do? Yeah.
Right. And I'm curious because, like I said, I've looked for like deep philosophical takes from the community that uses this term, the most, and they're not there because they're not trained. These people are not trained philosophers. Their elite skill level is in playing video games, and so like it's great.
That's fine.
But it's not a lot of overlap with like reading Aristotle. All right.
Yeah. Fair.
We'll catch you guys later.
That sounds good.